Hello and welcome to This Week in Movie History, a look at all the things that happened on This Week in Movie History. This was the week of August 27th, which is the day of Russian cinema in Russia. This is an actual holiday celebrating the Russian film industry and those who work in it that started in 1919, although back then it was called the Day of Soviet Cinema. So if you've been putting off that rewatch of Battleship Potemkin, now might be the time to get around to it. August 27th also marked the anniversary of the premiere of the film The Rain People in 1969. This rather unremarkable Francis Ford Coppola film is mainly notable because an aspiring young filmmaker named George Lucas shot a short documentary about the film's production called, fittingly enough, Filmmaker. According to a press release from the 1978 Mill Valley Film Festival, Coppola later admitted that Filmmaker may have been a better picture than The Rain People itself. On August 31st, 1897, Thomas Edison patented the Kinetoscope, one of the first devices designed for showing moving images to the public. Further fun fact, the film used for the device was 35 millimeters wide, which would become the standard film stock for the entire movie industry for the rest of the 20th century. August 29th, 1997 also marks a much more sinister event in film history. According to the T-800 Terminator in Terminator 2 Judgment Day, August 29th, 1997 is, well, Judgment Day. After being activated on August 3rd, supercomputer Skynet begins to learn at a geometric rate.
It becomes self-aware at 2:14 a.m. Eastern Time, August 29th. In a panic, they try to pull the plug.
3 billion are killed, and the war between humanity and the machines begins, eventually to be won by John Connor when he uses Skynet's time machine to send Kyle Reese back to 1984 to guard Sarah Connor against the T-800 Terminator Skynet sent back to kill her.
Come with me if you want to live.
And a reprogrammed T-800 Terminator to 1994 to protect his 10-year-old past self from the T-1000 Skynet sent back to kill him.
Come with me if you want to live.
Or does he? After all, in Terminator 2, Sarah and John seem to believe they've changed the future through their actions, and in Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, Judgment Day indeed still happens, but not on August 29, 1997. That movie would have us believe the events of T2 delayed Judgment Day a couple of years, but here's the thing. According to the rules of time travel laid out in the Terminator and Terminator 2, that's impossible. So buckle up for some spoilers on Terminator 1 and 2 if for some inexcusable reason you haven't seen those movies yet. The first Terminator's big reveal is that Kyle Reese, the soldier from the future sent by John Connor to protect Sarah Connor, is John Connor's father, and John was conceived during Kyle and Sarah's night of passion in the motel room on the run from the Terminator. The picture Kyle memorized of Sarah and wondered about her thoughts in was in fact a photo of her pregnant with his own son, during which she was thinking about Kyle himself. John Connor would then give that photo to Kyle in the future. The implication of this is that the timeline presented in the Terminator is a closed loop. The events of 1984 already happened, and always happened that way because otherwise you have no John Connor, and thus no resistance and no victory. So, Kyle can't be sent back in time, and now you're in full paradox.
God, a person could go crazy thinking about this.
Since a big part of Terminator 2's plot revolves around the characters believing they're changing the future, you'd think that it would alter this or maybe find a way to show that beyond the events of the first film, the timeline loop is less strict. Instead, Terminator 2 reinforces this idea, revealing that the severed arm and damaged CPU brain of the first film's Terminator is the entire basis for Skynet's creation. The man behind Skynet himself admits this.
Gave us ideas, took us in new directions. Things we would have never...
Everything we know about time travel in the first two Terminator films indicates that the timeline cannot be altered. Does this make the sequels that alter the timeline wrong? Yes, it makes them wrong. But maybe not so much for changing the timeline as for not asking the right question. By sending the Terminator back to 1984, Skynet essentially creates itself, which means, if that was intentional, Skynet exists somehow outside of the unalterable time loop established by T1 and T2. So the question becomes, what the hell is Skynet? Of course, nuclear war didn't annihilate us all in 1997, so maybe debating the prophetic elements of the Terminator films is a moot point. If you'd like a movie for this week with an arguably more on-target prediction of the future, well, September 1st was the 2006 release of Idiocracy.
That's what I thought!
So, there. That's our show for the week of August 27th. Please join us in 2 weeks for more This Week, 2 weeks from now.